Cloning. The one thing that makes people wonder, what if I had a twin? Or what if I can split myself into two and one can do the work while the other one can just sit there and relax? The funny part is that all of this is depicted by the media. Some people have a rough idea of what cloning is, the most common thing being it is the same replica. They are somewhat right. I want to explore what cloning would have to offer to life in general. I feel like the topic is already talked about and it affects us. Some points that I'll be going are what is cloning. Then I will talk about some of the ethical issues of cloning. In the end, I'll have some thoughts about cloning. With that said, what is cloning? To the average person, cloning in media is a form of simply copying and pasting someone or something. But it goes a lot deeper than that. According to the Medline website, cloning describes the process used to create an exact genetic replica of another cell or tissue or organism. The, this tells us that cloning happens at its core within the genes in the DNA. Now, another thing that to note is that there are three types of cloning. One of them being gene cloning, the second one being reproductive cloning, and the last one being therapeutic cloning. To understand these types of cloning, I will be going a lot deeper into each one of them. The first one being um, gene cloning. Gene cloning is as basic as copying and pasting of DNA. According to the National Human Genome Research Institute website, gene cloning produces copies of genes or segments of DNA. It also states that gene cloning is a very different process from reproductive and therapeutic cloning. This tells us that gene cloning is unique. Basically, gene cloning is getting the DNA, looking at the DNA, and let's say if a cow has 5 legs, I get the gene or the DNA where it says that the cow will have 5 legs and just clone it. Cloning it within a vessel, which leads us to the second one, the second type of cloning being reproductive cloning. Essentially, this type of cloning works by getting DNA from a host to another another host. Essentially, being that once you have the DNA, you're able to insert it to an embryo, and then the host gives birth to the clone. The last type of cloning being therapeutic cloning. Cloning, therapeutic cloning takes the first two clonings and adds one last step. Therapeutic cloning involves creating a clone embryo for the sole purpose of producing embryonic stem cells, which brings us to the second part of the video, the ethics of cloning. Cloning is is such an interesting thing since it affects us. Cloning always happens even if researchers aren't cloning. Bacteria, plants, cells, and even sometimes us are cloning. Cloning raises some questions about whether this is ethical. The good about cloning. Cloning would be only be affected by replicating an organism's DNA. One could argue that cloning extinct animals could be nice to reintroduce them to the ecosystem. Some counter arguments could be that that specific species simply weren't able to adapt fast enough. So they would just go instinct again. Or they could just evolve in a different way. Another good thing about cloning is the reproductive cloning could help sterile couples fulfilling their dreams of parenthood. Meaning, if they are not able to, um, if they're not able to give birth, they can just take that gene and the mother's gene, and therefore make it so that they can give birth. Some things that might be good that you could even clone is your deceased pet. Now, this is a little bit odd since cloning your deceased pet would be a little different. It wouldn't be the exact same pet as you know. It will also even have a different shade of fur since it still has to go through a reproductive system and cloning or in the DNA saying which one is more dominant in the gene pool. So it will be a different kind of pet regardless. Now this does raise some questions as it makes you wonder what kind of thing could happen if if a pet, a diseased pet could be even be replicated. Some of the bad things is that while gene cloning is the most regulated technique that is already accepted, the ones that are not as accepted is reproductive and therapeutic cloning. The reasons that reproductive cloning raises some eyebrows is that presents the potential of creating humans that are diseased or that are alive right now. This isn't good since you seeing your dead relative would be kind of odd. It wouldn't be the same person that you met. And the same thing could be saying if they were to clone you. You seeing yourself in public, but it's not you. It's somebody else. Another thing that raises an eyebrow is the therapeutic cloning. Therapeutic cloning essentially brings these stem cells, and while stem cells can help um, help some people in the long run, it leads to farming embryos in order to get these stem cells. As we are approaching the end, some of my thoughts about cloning. Cloning is such a fascinating thing since cloning shows how you're able to manipulate a person, or more like gene. While it is kind of interesting in practice, does it really does it really go well out in the public? While we could essentially benefit with having clone to replicate your organs, is it really natural? Or is it a good thing because this person who is having the organs that you could use for surgery has an opinion and is alive? So is it really ethical or is it really good? With that, I close my video by saying cloning could be either the beginning of some wonderful discovery, but at what expense?